It is 4 o'clock, so good afternoon, everyone. I will call this special meeting of the Council of Fundy Albert for December 30th, 2023 to order. The agenda for this afternoon's meeting was circulated in advance. Are there any questions or concerns with regard to the agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion to drop the agenda as circulated. So moved by Councillor Land, seconded by Councillor Coates. Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed, if any?
Aye.
The motion's carried unanimously. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to this afternoon's meeting?
No.
There being none, the only item we have on the agenda this afternoon is to approve an operating reserve transfer. So there was a draft resolution that was circulated in advance of the meeting. If someone would be so kind to read that, Councillor Land, please go ahead.
Whereas Village of Fundy Albert General Operating Fund has surplus funding available to transfer into an operating reserve. Be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert authorizes a transfer of $100,000 from the Fundy Albert General Operating Account to the Fundy Albert General Operating Reserve Account.
So moved by Councillor Land. Is there a seconder on that motion? Councillor Coates. Any questions on the motion?
It's John here. I would like to actually make an amendment to the motion. What I would like to do is make it clear that the surplus amounts being transferred are coming from line items that are deemed shared. I believe that there is $100,000 in shared surplus from 2023 to transfer, but it's important that only those amounts be transferred. And the reason is because a surplus or deficit is actually calculated in each of the subunits. And an end of year surplus or deficit is carried forward to the second next year directly under the subunits. And so it matters if a subunit has a surplus or deficit because it stays within the subunit for accounting purposes. And up until now, we have not actually seen a breakdown for 2023 of where this surplus is coming from. As I said, I believe that there is probably 100,000 in surplus from shared amounts. And therefore, I would like to amend the motion to make it clear that the transfer is from the general operating fund only in the shared areas up to 100,000 as funds allow to the reserve, which is going to be a shared reserve.
So you will need to propose a wording for that amendment, Councillor. We can't just leave it open-ended like that. And what I would add is, right at this point, I don't know whether we can confirm, whether we're in a position to confirm that the shared amounts will contribute to that amount. And that's like, I don't have that level of comfort personally. So yeah. I don't know, like you would have to propose a wording to amend that motion.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, up to that amount of funds permitting.
So just in order to be clear, John, or Counselor, please be specific in terms of the wording for the entire motion, just so that we're clear.
Understood. So I'm suggesting that the paragraph that begins "be it resolved" be amended to read that "be it resolved that the Village of Fundy Albert authorize the transfer of up to $100,000 from surplus amounts within the shared Fundy Albert General Operating Account to the Fundy Albert General Operating Reserved Account."
Okay, so that's fine. I would need a seconder on that motion. Anyone second that motion?
Is this, are we still in discussion?
There's a request to amend the motion. It requires a seconder to amend that motion. So there being no seconder on that motion, there's no further discussion on it. Now we go back to the original motion, which was to transfer the original motion. It's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone else who has any comments to provide or discussion?
Well, I would continue to say that we need to be clear where the $100,000 is coming from.
It's coming from, as near as I can tell, Counselor, it's coming from the Fundy Albert General Operating Fund.
Right, and that fund includes 8 subunits.
Correct.
Each of which at year end is audited to establish whether it has a surplus or a deficit. And those surplus or deficits from the 8 subunits are, and the shared amount as a separate entity, are moved to the second year. So we need to establish exactly where these amounts are coming from, or else, in my view, it's bordering on meaningless motion or resolution that we're doing because we're not being clear what actually is happening here.
Well, I would disagree. We are clear that it's coming from the Fundy Albert General Operating Account. It's just not, perhaps not to the level of detail that you're hoping for.
And that I think the assumption is that moving forward, it will be Fundy Albert shared reserve, correct? Not trying to figure out how to divide it up 7 ways, 6 ways. I think it's for Fundy Albert as a whole from this day forward, moving forward, the surplus.
Well, that's fine in principle, Loretta, except we're going to see in the coming days.
Councillor Arrow, you have been clear in relation to what you would like to see. Your motion has not been seconded, so you've had an opportunity to speak twice. And if there are other people who have any comments to make, we will listen to those comments, and then we will have to vote on the original motion. So, Councillor Elderton, did you have anything else to add?
No.
Councillor Coates, anything to add?
No.
Councillor Land?
No.
Councillor Jonah?
No.
No. So, no further discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any?
I oppose.
Councillor Arrows noted that Councillor Arrows opposed. The motion's carried. That is all the discussion that we have today that's on the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councillor Coates. So I will end the recording